We're going to cross over to Japan next. Eoin Sheahan has brought us the greatest fans video of all time after Ireland's win against Scotland in Yokohama. Here's a teaser.
Scotland were much worse than I thought they'd be. Scotland are a disgrace to world sport, really.
Ireland were fantastic. I think I've never seen a team like Ireland before. And I think... Hello? Come on, Ireland! Come on, Ireland! Come on, Ireland! Come on, Ireland! Why are you fucking laughing?
Oh.
It's a good that's a good video about how, like, you know, being drunk is so much funnier at the time than it is outwardly. It's like if you give up the drink and you spend time with people who are like, you know the people who turn sober and they're like, I just can't do it anymore because after a few pints, it's just like people think things are funny and it's just like you're just not funny. Like, it was very funny though.
It is the Vico Road, I'm told.
Vico.
Yeah. Eoin Sheahan, good morning to you.
Good morning, lads. How are things?
Johnny's not having your video. He didn't watch it last night, though.
I watched it. I thought it was great.
Oh, yeah, too late now, Johnny. You can't backpedal. That's one of those things.
It's not me. All I did was put a microphone in other people's faces. It's not my content. So you're more than welcome to slag them off, Johnny. I'm not standing over it whatsoever.
What percentage of the people you interviewed were drunk?
80%.
I would say
90%.
higher. Yeah. Sure.
It's 95%.
I would have gone for the full. I mean, it was late, right? It was late at a World Cup day. And
yeah.
Yeah, it was just before last train from Shin Yokohama station. So I got caught a bit late in the stadium. I think I was like one of the last journalists to leave the stadium last night, and I was just going to say, screw it, I'm going to go home because it's absolutely lashing rain. But then I ended up going for a walk and I ended up stumbling upon a place of shelter, which was this train station. And this train station had a load of people that were like singing the Fields of Athenry. And I was like, this actually might make a decent bit of content. So it wasn't exactly the plan to go and look out for those sort of people. Like the town centre, I could compare Saturday night when you had the All Blacks and the Springbok fans in town to last night when you had the Irish and Scottish fans in town, and it was chalk and cheese. Like, really, I would have thought that, you know, the Springboks, they're big men, the supporters that were there at the weekend, they know how to handle their drink. But really, nothing could compare to what I saw last night. It was absolute, and it's been the common phrase of this World Cup, carnage.
Did you like give every one of these individuals like something to sign beforehand that they willingly sort of said we're going to make fools of ourselves forevermore? No,
dial back the legal aspect of this. we're dealing with a sector of society here who might actually sue for that. So thanks, Johnny.
They came to me. It wasn't the other way around. So that's our loophole, right?
Yeah, consent enthusiastically delivered, I believe is the phrase we're looking.
I like the way he threw in, I was the last journalist to leave the stadium as well.
We all spotted that, Johnny.
Yeah.
Why were you so late, Owen? You couldn't work the technology? You're having troubles with your ISDN line, so the commentary went down for the first 20 minutes. Is that what happened?
To be honest with you, I was looking for a place that had shelter. I had to go outside the stadium to take a call, and I just couldn't find shelter anywhere. It was bucketing down. It was a monsoon outside the stadium last night, so I ended up just getting lost, basically, outside the stadium. It was nothing to do with hard work and dedication. It was just to do with me. An idiot.
Who's this guy, Darren Paris, that you paid to tweet nice things about you?
Oh, yeah, very nice chap. Came up to me in that station as well outside. He features in the video. He's one of the only people, like when I say there's 90% of the people that are drunk, he might be in the 10%.
I remember him, yeah. Yeah, he looked. He was quite like he was on it. He was, very impressive beard as well, and the rest of it, yes. a lot of new coverage for Paul Howard, I would have thought.
Well, Paul Howard, I'm sure, would have had a field day there last night, especially the four chaps who had "Let's Get Smith-Faced" on their tricolour flag that they brought into the transmission last night, which, of course, was a particular highlight in my life, getting to interview those.
Were they the ones who had the Ireland song that I'd never heard before? Was it a school's rugby song that had been tweaked? Was that what? Because I immediately went, I've literally never heard this before, and I've been at loads of Ireland rugby matches. So, but there is a type of rugby match that I've never been to. So maybe I was missing out. Was it did you?
I hadn't heard it either, to be honest. It rang a bell for sure, and it may have been like from, I don't know, some certain viral videos from schools games over the last couple of years. But I'd imagine that's what it was. They have their own thing, or maybe we're just getting old, Ger. We're actually falling out of touch with the young Irish rugby supporter, and they have their new songs. Fields of Athenry was very last century, perhaps.
Are you in some sort of plush railway cabin there? Or?
It's actually, I've just checked into my hotel. What you're seeing behind me is the city of Hamamatsu in Shizuoka Prefecture. This is where Ireland are going to be playing this weekend. Just came down into bullet train this morning, Johnny, and down to a whole new environment. You step off the bullet train in this environment and the humidity hits you. I was there strolling up to the stadium yesterday and I was like, this is fine. I've been here 10 days. I've acclimatized. I can handle the humidity. Actually, it just turns out yesterday wasn't a very humid day at all, because when I stepped off here in the south coast of Japan, it suddenly just hits you like a brick wall. It's going to be horrific conditions if you're not used to it this weekend, if it stays like this. It's glorious out there.
He's taking no credit for the great interview he did, but he's trying to hail himself for being able to handle humidity. He's an interesting guy, our own. Yeah.
It's a big string to my bow, being able to handle humidity. Pros and cons of my life. Pros number one is being able to handle the heat.
It's a coastal town. Are you going to get a few days at the beach? Is that like you're there? You know, obviously the work dries up now. Basically, is that it?
Well, there's a beach. The beach is an hour of a walk away, so I might pop down there. The bus can take you down there a bit quicker. I see that the local delicacy here is eel, so I'll either go down and you can't really catch eels at the beach, can you? They're more of they swim in streams really rather than in the coast. So
so many strings to your bow on. What do you know the way like
eel tickler was not one that we expected. I mean, you know, whatever you get up to in the privacy, whatever.
Yeah, Eoin is red haired, like you know. So South Africa, one of South Africa's forwards is very Irish looking, and
he was very Irish looking.
My girlfriend was like, "What's his story?" And I was like, "I actually don't know. I have no idea." But you'd imagine, like, you know the way, like in foreign countries, like if you see somebody who looks completely different, like Eoin does not look Japanese, got red hair, people gravitate towards him. I wonder, will Irish fans, like, now that they know what Eoin is, will they gravitate towards him every time they see him and want to be interviewed?
They are, aren't they?
Well, nobody's gravitated towards me. I've actually been surprised by this. It must be an urban myth, or maybe I've been had on, that apparently red hair has some sort of special power in Japan, that people tend to come over and actually rub your hair. I was told to expect it.
You're hoping
and it didn't happen once in Tokyo. So
it's great if you want to deal with humidity.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly down here in more rural area Japan. I'm looking forward to people coming up and rubbing my hair. I'm not going to be afraid, guys. Go ahead and do it. Don't worry. I see it as a sign of endearment.
You can imagine Eoin on a dating website. You know, qualities. You know, red hair, able to deal with humidity, and whatever after that.
Look, my brother plays as a tight head prop for South Africa.
Different physique going on there. Now you'd be more of a diminutive kind of scrum half type character.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I had only had access to, anyway, the training
regime
of a full-time rugby player.
Yeah.
And overnight there's been some injury news. Apart from all the crack, you've also been doing some hard, proper scoop journalism.
Yeah, well, there was a press conference this morning, so I wouldn't call it scoop journalism, but thank you very much for the credit. There was a press briefing earlier on today, and the RFU confirmed the situation with the HIAs. So that's Peter O'Mahony and Bundy Aki. So they obviously failed HIA 1 on the day yesterday. They passed HIA 2 last night, and then HIA 3 is taking place today. So if they pass HIA 3, then they will be available automatically for this Saturday. They don't have to go through the return to play protocol. And the return to play protocol is obviously a 6-day turnaround. So there's some confusion as to whether or not they would be able to play this weekend if they had to go through that. So it's kind of hanging on whether or not they'll pass HIA 3. Johnny Sexton, it was a bit of a knock in the leg, really, is what it was said earlier on, that he was taken off tactically, is what the IRFU said in relation to his substitution yesterday. Still a little bit of a grey area there. It was Cian Healy and Ger Carmody up for interview today, so maybe if we get one of the coaches up over the next couple of days, we'll be able to ask them in a bit more clarity what exactly happened there, why he's been kept on the pitch. But it seemed that maybe it was something resembling a dead leg, or something that he could just run off, and that's why Conor Murray stepped up to the plate a couple of times yesterday. In terms of any other injury news, then Josh van der Flier, he just had a cut over his eye and he was taken off as well, but that was only just because he suffered a bit of a knock, and he's totally fine as well. So there is a possibility that you're going into this weekend with a clean bill of health. I do suspect, though, that Robbie Henshaw is probably not going to feature this weekend, because put my hands up, completely wrong last week about Keith Earls. I thought after the sounds we were getting from the camp earlier in the week that he was going to feature at the weekend, but it is that old chestnut with Joe Schmidt. If you don't train fully on the Monday or the Tuesday, you are not playing at the weekend, and it doesn't sound like Robbie Henshaw is going to be back in full training tomorrow with Ireland, which immediately precludes him from playing in a Joe Schmidt team, you'd suspect.
Yeah, there's no rush though, because they're going to beat Japan and they're going to go all the way through to the quarterfinals, and there's now only one game that matters, and that is the quarterfinal against the Springboks.
Yeah, like what do we think about this? Like when do we like, what mixture do we play over the next 3 games? Like after, I don't think we've got any fear from Japan after what they did on Friday, and also Ireland are back to a pretty high level as well. So this has suddenly become 3 games now where you can do whatever you want with them, you'd suspect. So like, is it half a team for all 3 of them so that you have kind of a carousel of players who are just ticking over, or do you play your full team, B team, full team, or vice versa? It's interesting to think about what the combinations are. It was also very interesting over the last 24 hours or so, like how many questions get thrown at Joe Schmidt in the press conference, especially yesterday, about South Africa. Now, I thought, oh, well, it's not the time to be asking about South Africa, because he's just going to say, well, we're just focusing on Japan next week. We've only won one game. But really, he kind of entertains the prospect that this South Africa contest might happen. So it's on now. I mean, we've gone right into this state of phony war, which these next 3 games are really going to be, unless the Japanese pull like a massive rabbit out of the hat this weekend. But I just don't think that's coming.
It's a great situation to be in, because also like the substitutes who came on, in fairness, yesterday played a key role, and the players that have to come in, where would Carberry fit in now over the next sort of few games, and Ireland have that cushion now where they can try things, and it couldn't have been a better start really. Apart from, it was just everything went right. The 9-0 was great, and basically playing the player fullback that wouldn't be playing there otherwise, and he has a good game as well. And you're looking at, we have a lot more dynamism actually out wide than we look to have, and it's a perfect. I imagine he will use like pretty much the whole squad. The Japan game, like, you shouldn't be entirely taking that for granted, because host nation, they're not that bad. They've had the odd scalp, but obviously the Russia game as well, and Samoa will be grand, and it'll be a great opportunity to use players, I would have thought.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you probably have Samoa and Japan on a similar footing at this stage. Like, we'll have to wait and see how Samoa get on in their first game in a couple of days as well. So there's question marks over that. But I'd certainly be of the opinion that you kind of have a rotating cast of players. You don't just play a full B team over the next couple of days. With a 31-man squad, it's never the case. It's not like a summer tour when you've got a Lions tour on, for example. You're always going to have stars in your starting team in a World Cup team. But like this weekend, I guess his hand is forced a small bit in the fact that Conway and Larmour have already started the game. But like, Rory Best played 80 minutes yesterday. Is it Niall Scannell who automatically starts at hooker? That's one change you could look at. Sean Klein, I mean, he needs to get some minutes as well, you'd imagine, because for the sole reason that he's been brought in as cover for a South African situation if Ireland have a few injuries. So there's plenty of options, but like, you look at the bench yesterday, they were superb as well. Things are looking very rosy all of a sudden.
Oh, and we're going to talk to you a little bit later on as well, because you're off to the Japanese press conference next, right?
Yeah, it's on at this hotel actually in 10 minutes time, so hopefully there's an interpreter or an English speaker.
We are getting pictures sent to us by Ireland fans in Japan. Greg Mallon was the first one.
His character has been hailed
a real gentleman.
A real gentleman, which I presume is on about Eoin.
I mean, I don't know.
Just can't.
What they expected. But go on, yeah. Good luck.
Good luck. We'll chat to you in a while.
What a hero. Eoin's probably most famous moment was
being interviewed post-match, post-event.
Yes. Now he's kind of had his own back somewhat.
Yeah. Look at Eoin Sheahan in Japan next.
Watch off the ball. I'm Scottish. I've seen it on YouTube. Off the ball. To be fair, I've watched off the ball on YouTube. They're good boys.
This is the game we wanted. Get over to Japan tomorrow or on the 28th, and look, we'll see South Africa then.
What do you think?
Even confident than me.
I think Gav is right.
Gav's a fucking bullshit.
Right, to Japan. Eoin Sheahan, good morning to you.
Morning, how are things?
How was that press conference? I mean, I know you were doing journalism again, but it didn't work out, did it?
It did, to a certain point. The first couple of people that were up were they were natives. They speak Japanese as their first language, and naturally the press here don't feel the need to translate it for the foreign media. To be fair, the Japanese press conferences are better attended than any other conference I've been at. The amount of photographers, the amount of people frantically typing is incredible. There is tons of media from all around the country at these press conferences. So you get there and you really do feel like an outsider when you're watching that happen. But then they brought in two people who weren't native Japanese speakers, so they actually had to have an interpreter. So we got into the mix, asked them a few questions. I'm literally just out of the press conference there, so I'll get it up and off the ball during the day. But we got chatting to a couple of them about Ireland's weaknesses and things like that. And there seems to be a bit of a theme developing here that Ireland out on the flanks is going to be an area that Japan are going to target. It was also mentioned that they might bomb a few balls into the air, test Ireland out with the high ball. That they spilled a few balls yesterday is what they mentioned, and that might be another area that they target. All with the caveat that they don't want to give away their game plan, but you can kind of read between the lines in the Japanese press conference today.
Okay, so that's not part of their game plan. Wink, wink. Is that kind of how that went? Who did they put forward?
There was two players put forward there earlier. We're going to have obviously Jamie Joseph at some point during the week as well, which is kind of the holy grail when it comes to these press conferences, because you've got a native English speaker who's in charge of the whole operation. That is what we're all looking forward to. I'm not sure if he's going to actually talk tomorrow morning or is he going to talk the following day, but as soon as he is, we'll get all that stuff up on offtheball.com. But it's hard to tell. They had a replacement scrum half up first today, and they go through 4 players today, and then they'll put up another few again tomorrow. So it's handy. It's just across the road here from the hotel we're in, and it's kind of like this sort of desolate place when you walk in. It's like that Fatboy Slim music video with Christopher Walken in it. Weapon of choice. When he's kind of dancing around an empty hotel, that's what kind of these buildings feel like here. And then you actually walk into the press conference room and it's packed with Japanese journalists. So it's an interesting experience. Just sit tight for the video because it's intriguing enough. It's kind of intimidating asking a question as well, because as soon as you open your mouth, there's just clicks everywhere. It's very unusual. It's kind of a bizarre setup.
Taking photographs of you.
Yeah, intimidating for people answering your questions last night.
I know. No, I don't think so, Ger. I think it's just any movement of the head, even by somebody at the top table, needs to be snapped by about 20 different photographers in the room. It's fairly intimidating for a player actually, where especially if you're not a Japanese speaker, you're going through an interpreter. You've got people snapping you all the time. And the answers were quite short, to be fair, from some of the English speakers, because I guess they just felt it was a bit of a hassle.
Alan Quinlan was on earlier. He was saying he thinks that there won't be significant changes beyond the players who are injured. Probably maybe Sexton doesn't start. The 2 guys who are coming through the HIAs probably don't start next week against Japan. But other than that, the squad will largely be kept intact. So maybe Joey Carbery starts at 10. Is Joey Carbery ready to start at 10 against Japan, do you think?
But it's unusual. Why wasn't he on the bench yesterday? The news around him was that he was flying in training, that he was ready to go, that he did a full part in the warm-up, but Jack Carty was selected ahead of him. Carty obviously did really well when he came on. You do wonder if there's now a battle there between them for a substitute number 10. I would always maintain that because of what Joey Carbery offers, he is a better substitute out-half, because he is a different sort of out-half. It's not just a situation where if you need to replace Sexton or anything like that. It's a situation where he can slot in at 15, or potentially he could slot in at 12 in a very extraordinary circumstance, and just offer something different to the Ireland backline. Whereas Jack Carty is a very traditional 10, I think it's fair to say, even though some of the things he does and the way he kicks the ball sometimes isn't very traditional at all. So I think he's got great options there. I think he sees a lot of value in Jack Carty, and I don't think it's fully nailed down here that he's going to be out of the picture if everybody's fit. But yeah, it's unusual. I would expect him to come back in, because they did make it clear yesterday that he was going to take a full part in the warm-up. Okay,
we can see the city behind you this time. You said earlier on it was just blue sky. But so where are you again? Remind us.
Hamamatsu is the name of the city. It's the biggest city with a population of around 800,000 in the prefecture of Shizuoka. Shizuoka is where Ireland are playing. There's a Shizuoka city, and there's a Fukuroi city, which is where Ireland versus Japan is going to going to happen this weekend in the Epoca Stadium, which is the same stadium where Ronaldinho lobbed a seaman from 40 yards in 2002.
Accidentally, of course.
Yeah, of course. We can bring back up that debate when we get to the ground or something at the weekend. He was going for it, sure. He was going for it. So that's the stadium where Ireland and Japan is on. But it's down here in the mountains. Getting the bullet train down earlier on, you're told to sit in seat number E to get a beautiful view of Mount Fuji. And I get onto the train and I'm stuck in seat D, and the guy beside me's got the window seat, and I'm like, that's gutting. Then he turns around to me and he's like, I'm actually getting off the next station, mate, if you want to swap seats. I'm like, yes, the holy grail. I get the perfect view of Mount Fuji. Look out the window, fog everywhere. So I didn't quite get to see it, unfortunately, today, but I might make a trip up there at some point this week to try and see it in all its glory.
Is it close?
Yeah, it is. It's so the journey down from Tokyo was it was less than 2 hours, and Mount Fuji is about halfway in between here and there. So about an hour and a half up the road on one of the slow trains or buses, and you'll be in a good view of Mount Fuji. Like the countryside around here is absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. It's mountainous. There's kind of old-style Japanese houses dotted along the mountainside as the kind of bullet train courses through little towns here and there. So we're in a beautiful part of the country right here, it's fair to say, but this is the most populated, this is the most urban area in this entire prefecture here.
All right, sounds like you're having a good time. You're going to do a paper review for us today as well, are you?
Yeah, will you have a look at some of the papers today? It's obviously rugby, because of the Japan playing on Friday, it isn't exactly making its way into a lot of the newspapers. Like, for example, we have Naomi Osaka there on the back of this paper. Again, I need to figure out what these newspapers are actually called so I can start finding trends in them or anything like that. Baseball season still up and running here, which is something that is kind of dominating proceedings in the sports pages as well. But when it comes to the Rugby World Cup, we can see here we've got a match report on Ireland against Scotland. You can see that right there. It's a picture of Rory Best's head upside down. We've also got England-Tonga there with Eddie Jones quotes in a sidebar. And it's hard to actually kind of make out what they're trying to say about Ireland. I do wonder if we're going to get a situation now where the Japanese press are going to turn into like Ireland bashes over the next couple of days to try and psych us out, because by all accounts, some people aren't too happy with the fact that Ireland are talking about South Africa already and potential quarter-finalists. Tennis and golf dominating things there as well. Shibuno is the name of the golfer, of course, who had great success over the course of the weekend. She's on the back page of a lot of the newspapers. There she is on my favourite publication, the one, again, that I don't really know what it is, but it's colourful and it's got lots of things on the inside. If we take a quick look inside, we'll be able to see a couple of Rugby World Cup things, I'm sure. And baseball, as always, is just everywhere. You can see there's somebody who's very distraught about a particular sporting event. I think that's to do with the baseball. So that's unfortunate for that person. I think the Tigers suffered a loss over the course of the weekend. I'm starting to get to know the names of these baseball teams. I don't know where they're located or anything, but the Tigers are one of them. Rugby then here, that's their rugby section in this newspaper. So you got to go about 4 or 5 pages in to actually find any evidence of rugby in these newspapers. So, like, you can see it on the front page of this one then, the Japan team walking through a corridor somewhere. So there's kind of a fascination, I think, with the tournament as a whole, with the team as a whole. Whether or not the sport is going to take over now is obviously this very hard thing to nail down over the next couple of weeks. Like, there was a good few locals at the game yesterday. Like, they were kind of wearing Ireland jerseys, actually, a lot of the local people. But then Saturday night at New Zealand against South Africa, it felt like more of a corporate affair. It didn't really feel like that the locals were there as such. There was a lot of Springboks, a lot of New Zealand, and a lot of people, I'd say, involved in sponsorship and things like that.
Yeah. All right, Owen, good stuff today. Thanks a million. We look forward to your stuff in the press conference a little bit later on all of our social channels. And go easy. Enjoy it.
Cheers.